Right now, I want you to do something very simple. Think back to last week. Try to remember clearly what you ate for dinner 3 nights ago. Not last night, 3 nights ago. The setting, the plate, who was with you. If you can recall it without effort, good. If a soft fog moves in instead, a vague sense of, I think it was something with chicken, pay attention. Because what most people laugh off as getting older is often the very first thing the brain does when something has been going wrong for years. Subscribe to Dr. Harold Whitman if you find this useful. The more people who join, the more likely the next person who needs this information actually finds it. Before we go further, a quick note. I'm Dr. Harold Whitman, your fictional AI health advisor. This channel uses an AI character to share general health concepts drawn from real internal medicine practice. What you'll hear today is educational, not personal medical advice. Every situation is different. If something here resonates with you, bring it to your own doctor. That's where real personalized care begins. I want to tell you about Margaret. 69 years old, a retired bookkeeper, sharp as a tack her whole life. Her husband Robert brought her to my clinic, not because of memory, but because she had stopped enjoying her morning coffee. For 40 years, she had ground beans every morning, and lately she said the coffee tasted like nothing. She joked about it. He laughed too. 6 months later, she missed the exit to her own daughter's house, a drive she had made every Sunday for 12 years. 6 months after that, she asked Robert what year it was. By then, we were no longer at the beginning. We were 2 years past it. The coffee that tasted like nothing, that was the warning. And it had shown up almost 3 years before anyone in the family noticed she was forgetting things. Here's what most people don't realize. About 1 in 9 Americans aged 65 and older is living with dementia. And the changes inside the brain, the plaques, the tangles, the shrinkage of specific regions begin 10, 15, sometimes 20 years before the first family member says the word memory. The brain is not a wall that suddenly cracks. It is a slow erosion. And in that long, quiet erosion, the body sends signals. Specific ones. Recognizable ones. Most people laugh them off because each one, on its own, looks like ordinary aging. And this is where most people get it wrong. They wait for the obvious sign, forgetting a name, missing an appointment, repeating a story before they get worried. But by the time those signs appear, the disease has already been working for years. Your brain has many systems, not one. Most people only know about the first, the memory system, the part that stores names and dates, and the route to the grocery store. But the brain damage of Alzheimer's and related dementias does not start there. It starts in regions you have never heard of. The entorhinal cortex, a small structure tucked deep on the inside of your temporal lobe, the size of your thumbnail. The olfactory bulb, the patch of nerve tissue just behind the bridge of your nose, where smell signals first reach the brain. The hippocampus, your spatial mapmaker. These regions sit close together, and they are damaged years before the rest of the brain. Long before you forget a name, these 3 regions begin to fail, quietly, in ways that look like nothing at all. So today, I want to walk you through the 5 warning signs that actually show up first, ranked by how early in the disease they appear. Number 5 is the one most people already know. Number 1 is the one almost nobody catches in time. Number 5, repeating the same question within minutes. Not forgetting where you put your keys. Everyone does that. I'm talking about something more specific. Asking your spouse what time the doctor's appointment is, getting an answer, and 10 minutes later, asking the same question with no memory of having asked. The hallmark is not the forgetting. It is the unawareness that the conversation already happened. Short-term memory, the brain's ability to hold information for 90 seconds while it decides whether to file it permanently, runs through the hippocampus. When that structure is damaged, the brain receives the answer, but it never lays it down. So the question genuinely feels new each time. Most families notice this fifth, not first, because by the time it shows up, the damage to the hippocampus is well underway. If you or a loved one is doing this regularly, not once, but as a pattern, that is the moment to see a doctor. Not in 6 months. Now. Number 4, trouble managing money or paying bills. I want to pause here, because this one surprises people. A 2023 review found that financial mistakes, missed payments, unusual purchases, difficulty making change at a checkout, problems balancing a checkbook, can show up years before any formal memory diagnosis. Why? Because handling money is one of the most cognitively demanding things you do. It pulls on working memory, the ability to hold numbers in your head for a few seconds. It pulls on attention. It pulls on judgment. The gut sense that a phone call asking for your bank details is suspicious. All 3 of those functions are coordinated by the frontal lobe and its connections to memory. When dementia begins, those connections fray. If a person who has managed their finances flawlessly for 50 years suddenly starts overpaying for things, falling for a scam they would have laughed off 2 years ago, or letting bills pile up unopened on the kitchen counter, that is not laziness. That is not getting older. That is a clinical signal. By the way, if this video is useful to you so far, take 3 seconds and subscribe. More people watching means more people catching these signs early in someone they love. That's the only reason this channel exists. Number 3, personality and mood changes that don't match the situation. This is one of the cruelest signs, because it is so easily mistaken for a bad mood. A person who is warm becomes withdrawn. A person who is patient becomes irritable. A person who is social begins refusing invitations, not because they are tired, but because they are quietly afraid. They have started to notice, somewhere underneath, that something is off, and they cope by shrinking their world. Other times, the change goes the other way. A careful person becomes unusually impulsive, makes a strange purchase, says something blunt at a family dinner that they would never have said 3 years ago. The mechanism is this. The frontal lobe, the part of your brain right behind your forehead, is the seat of personality, social judgment, and impulse control. As Alzheimer's progresses, and especially in a related condition called frontotemporal dementia, this region thins and loses connections. The personality you have known your entire life is, in part, held in place by living tissue. When that tissue weakens, the personality drifts. Now here's the part most people miss. The person experiencing it usually cannot tell you what is wrong. They feel different, but they can't name it, which is why family members often notice the change long before the person themselves does. Number 2, getting lost in familiar places. This is the sign Margaret showed when she missed the exit to her daughter's house. It is also the sign that researchers now believe is one of the earliest measurable changes in Alzheimer's disease. Here's why. Spatial navigation, your ability to know where you are, where your car is parked, the route from the kitchen to the bathroom in the dark, is built by a structure called the hippocampus, working with a small region called the entorhinal cortex. These 2 regions sit just behind your ear, deep inside the temporal lobe. And they are the very first regions where Alzheimer's pathology begins. Not the language area, not the personality area. The map maker. Years before memory of name slips, the internal map starts to blur. What does this look like in real life? driving home from the grocery store and turning onto the wrong street, walking out of a restaurant bathroom and not knowing which way the table is, standing in your own kitchen at 3 in the morning and feeling just for a second that you don't recognize it. People laugh these moments off. They shouldn't. Try this right now. Close your eyes. Picture the route from your front door to the nearest pharmacy. Can you mentally drive every turn, every landmark? If yes, your spatial system is intact. If the route blurs in the middle or you can't quite hold the picture together, mention that to your doctor at your next visit. Not because it proves anything, but because it's worth tracking. Number 1, a loss of the sense of smell. This is the warning sign almost no one knows about, and it is now considered one of the earliest predictors we have. The olfactory bulb, that small patch of nerve tissue behind the bridge of your nose, sits directly next to the entorhinal cortex and the hippocampus. It is one of the very first places where the misfolded proteins of Alzheimer's appear. Research from the National Institute on Aging, the University of Chicago, and Columbia has shown the same pattern again and again. A measurable decline in the ability to identify smells can precede a dementia diagnosis by several years. In some studies, by 5 years or more. What does that look like in daily life? Coffee that suddenly smells weaker. Food that feels bland, so people compensate by adding more salt, more sugar, more spice. The smell of a rose, a grandchild's hair, a lit match, sensations that used to be vivid and are now muted. It is so gradual that most people never notice. The brain quietly stops registering smells, and the world becomes a little less colorful. And we tell ourselves we just have a stuffy nose. Margaret's coffee that tasted like nothing. That was almost certainly her olfactory bulb beginning to fail. 3 years before her diagnosis. 3 years where, if anyone had connected the dots, she could have started lifestyle interventions, joined a clinical trial, made plans, treasured time differently. Now a loss of smell does not mean dementia. Sinus problems, certain medications, smoking, head injuries, even the lingering effects of a virus can all cause it. But if your sense of smell has clearly faded over months or a year or two, and you can't trace it to one of those obvious causes, bring it up with your doctor. Specifically, by name. Say, I've lost my sense of smell and I'd like to be evaluated. Let me bring this together with what I share with my own patients, the 5-question check-in. Once a year, around your birthday, I want you and your spouse, or you and an adult child, to sit down for 10 minutes and walk through these 5 questions honestly. 1. In the last 12 months, has my sense of smell or taste noticeably changed? 2. Have I gotten lost, even briefly, in a place I should know well? 3. Has my personality or mood shifted in a way the people closest to me have commented on? 4. Am I making mistakes with money or bills that would have been unthinkable 2 years ago? 5. Am I asking the same question more than once in the same conversation without realizing it? If the answer to any one of these is yes, not maybe, but yes, schedule a visit with your primary care doctor and ask specifically for a cognitive screening. Tools like the MOCA take about 10 minutes. They're free, and they can establish a baseline. From there, if anything looks concerning, your doctor can refer you on. A neurologist, a geriatric psychiatrist, a memory clinic. Because here is what too few people understand. There is no cure for Alzheimer's yet, but there are now medications that work better the earlier they are started, lifestyle changes that genuinely slow progression, and clinical trials that need participants who are still in the very earliest ages. The window for those things is the window most people sleep through. Before we close, I want you to know why I make these videos. I want you, the people watching this channel, to live longer, stronger, more independent lives. To wake up with energy, to stay sharp, to stay strong, to stay vital. To enjoy the years ahead with the people you love, in the body you've earned. That is what healthy and vital exists for. Take good care of yourself this week. I'll see you in the next video. One last question for the comments. Of these 5 signs, the smell, the getting lost, the personality shift, the money mistakes, the repeated questions, which one have you noticed in yourself, in a spouse, or in a parent? You don't have to use names. Your answer might be the thing that moves another viewer to make the appointment they've been putting off. Share this video with one person you love who is over 60.